Hey, what's up everybody? Eternal Fire here, bringing you a video guide on the Prot Paladin and the pre-patch to Legion expansion 7.0.3. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Spellbook, the talent tree, as well as the build you're going to want to use. We're going to talk about the single and AoE target rotation, as well as the stat priority you want to use. With that said, let's get into the Spellbook. Ardent Defender is an instant ability, reduces all damage you take by 20% for 8 seconds. While Ardent Defender is active, the next attack that would otherwise kill you will instead bring you to 12% of your maximum health. So basically, if you know the next ability from a boss is going to kill you, you pop that bad boy, it doesn't kill you, and it brings you up to 12% of your max health. Hopefully you can get topped off at that point. Avenger's Shield is an instant ability. Hurls your shield at an enemy target, dealing holy damage, interrupting and silencing the non-player target for 3 seconds, and then jumping to 2 additional nearby target enemies. Avenging Wrath is your damage cooldown, increases all damage and healing you deal by 35% for 20 seconds. It's on a 2-minute cooldown. We're not going to be talking about talents right now, we're going to go over that later on, so we're just going to jump down to Blessing of Freedom. Instant ability, places a blessing on a party or raid member, granting immunity to movement impairing effects for 8 seconds. Blessing of Sacrifice, places a blessing on any party or raid member, transferring 30% of the damage taken to you for 12 seconds or until transfer damage would cause you to fall below 20% health. So basically, if one of your party or raid members is taking a lot of damage, you see that, you pop that on them, it helps smooth the damage out that they're taking by making you take 30% of their damage, which you can handle a lot better than they necessarily can. Cleanse Toxins cleanses a friendly target, removing all poisons and disease effects. Consecration consecrates the land beneath you, causing holy damage over 8.1 seconds to enemies who enter the area. It's on an 8.13 second cooldown, so you can almost have that up constantly all the time. Divine Shield is on a 5-minute cooldown. It's an instant ability, protects you from all damage and spells for 8 seconds, cannot be used if you have Forbearance, causes Forbearance for 30 seconds. Then we have Divine Steed. What I like about this, it's built into the Prot Paladin. Unlike the Ret Pally, you have to choose that as a talent to have it, but Prot Pallys just have it. So summons a holy mount to ride for 3 seconds, increasing movement speed by 100%, usable while indoors or in combat. So that is just a really great mobility skill that you have right there. Flash of Light, a quick but expensive spell, healing a friendly target for X amount of healing. Guardian of the Ancient Kings, instant ability, empowers you with the spirit of the Ancient Kings, reducing all damage you take by 50%. So that's a huge damage reduction right there, but it is on a 5-minute cooldown, so we got to use that wisely. Hammer of Justice, stuns the target for 6 seconds on a 1-minute cooldown. Hammer of the Righteous, hammers a target for X amount of physical damage while you are standing in your consecration. Hammer of the Righteous also causes a wave of light that hits all other targets within 8 yards for holy damage. Hand of Reckoning is an instant ability on an 8-second cooldown, taunts the target to attack you and increases threat that you generate against the target for 3 seconds. Basically, this is your taunt, but a really cool thing paladins can do with their taunt is say, you're tanking, or your other tank in the raid is tanking, and you want to kind of cheese an ability that the raid boss is about to do that's going to do a ton of damage and possibly kill one of you guys. You can use your Hand of the Reckoning and pop Divine Shield. So once you use Hand of the Reckoning for 3 seconds, that target cannot attack anybody else but you. You pop Divine Shield, so you're immune to all damage. He does that ability, you're immune to it, you cheese the mechanic of that fight, and then you need to have a macro that will instantly cancel Divine Shield as soon as that 3-second Hand of Reckoning is off, because then if you still have Divine Shield up, the boss is going to start attacking somebody else, because you don't have any threat if you have Divine Shield up unless you have Hand of Reckoning. Going down to Judgment, it's judges the target, dealing holy damage, and reduces the remaining cooldown on Shield of the Righteous by 1 second or 2 seconds on a critical strike. So you're going to want to be using Judgment whenever it's up. Lay on Hands, it's a huge heal, heals a friendly target for an amount equal to your maximum health, and cannot be used if the target has Forbearance, also causes Forbearance for 30 seconds. So basically, you're getting really low, you can pop, your Lay on Hands, and that'll fill you right up. Light of the Protector calls down the light to heal you for 27% of your missing health. While you are standing in consecration, Light of the Protector healing is increased by 20%. So that's basically how consecration has changed. It's got the same ability, in and of itself, but if you use Light of the Protector or Shield of the Righteous, while Consecration is active, it buffs Shield of the Righteous and Light of the Protector by 20%. So you want to, keep that in mind, and just remember that you can have Consecrate up basically all the time. So there's no reason really you shouldn't be getting those 2 buffs on those 2 abilities. And just, keep in mind also that Light of the Protector heals you for 27% of your missing health, not your maximum health. So say you have 500,000 health, it's not going to heal you for 27% of 500,000. It's going to heal you for 27% of the missing health from that, 500,000. So, just something to think about. Rebuke interrupts spell casting and prevents any spell in that school from being cast for 4 seconds. Redemption is your res ability, brings a dead ally back to life with 35% of maximum health and mana, cannot be cast in combat. Shield of the Righteous slams the target with your shield, causing holy damage and reducing damage you take by 37% for 4.5 seconds. While you are standing in your Consecration, again, Shield of the Righteous effects are increased by 20%. So basically with this ability, you have 3 charges of it. You want to make sure that you're using it, constantly, but you don't want to just be spamming it either, because you want that 4.2 buff to fall off before you apply it again, or you're just going to be wasting damage mitigation that you could use later, but now you used it all up. So you just have to wait for that 14.5 second recharge, or based on your haste. So you're going to want to use that ability. It's not in the global cooldown. Light of the Protector is not in the global cooldown, so you can use them in your rotation whenever you please, but just make sure that you're letting that 4.5 second buff on you fall off. It's a huge damage reduction. It's based on your mastery. So let it fall off, then reapply it. Don't just spam all 3 charges at once. But at the same time, you also don't want to have, just sitting on 3 charges, because that's a waste of, damage mitigation that you could be using. Next, we have our passives. Grand Crusader. When you avoid a melee attack or use Hammer of the Righteous, you have a 15% chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Avenger's Shield. Heart of the Crusader increases your mounted speed by 20%. This does not stack with other movement speed increasing effects. And then finally we have Mastery. Increases damage reduction from Shield of the Righteous by 12% and increases your chance to block melee attacks by 24% and increases your attack power by 24%. So when you use Shield of the Righteous, you get that damage reduction. It's a really great active mitigation. And it's the more mastery you have, the more damage mitigation you're going to get from that ability. So what I'm going to say for your stat priorities is none of your abilities are without a cooldown. Everything here has a cooldown, which these abilities can be reduced, that cooldown, if the more haste you have. So your primary stat is going to be haste, and then your secondary stat, in my opinion, is going to be mastery and then versatility. So that's your spellbook. Now let's go to the talent tree. I use Blessed Hammer. I wanted to show you that because Blessed Hammer replaces Hammer of the Righteous. The nice thing about I'm trying to get out of combat here. The nice thing about Blessed Hammer is it replaces Hammer of the Righteous, and it has 3 charges. Throws a Blessed Hammer that spirals outward, dealing holy damage to enemies that it hits and causing them to deal 15% less damage to you on their next auto attack. So that is just a really nice damage reduction. You're basically going to want to use Blessed Hammer every other ability that you use. So you're going to open on your single target with Judgment, use Blessed Hammer. Consecration, Blessed Hammer. Avenger's Shield, Blessed Hammer. Shield of the Righteous, Blessed Hammer. And the recharge, again, you have 3 charges, but the recharge is only 4.07 seconds, or based on your haste. So, that is going to be up all the time. So just make sure that you're trying to use that every other time. So that way, as many auto attacks that the target's dealing is doing 15% less damage to you. It's going to be really nice in, trash packs and just in all situations. Then we have in the next tier, we're going to be talking about Bastion of Light and First Avenger. Bastion of Light immediately grants 3 charges of Shield of the Righteous. So, say you are, you're going to be taking a lot of damage soon, but you don't have any Shield of the Righteous charges off cooldown, you can pop Bastion of Light and it instantly gives you 3 charges of Shield of the Righteous, which will allow you to continue to have that active damage mitigation. So that's going to be your survivability talent you want to choose in this tier. If you don't need as much survivability, you're not too worried about it, you are going to want to take passive First Avenger. It's a passive ability, increases the damage of Avenger's Shield by 50% and increases the chance for its remaining cooldown to be reset by abilities and talents by 50%, but now it only hits 1 target. So if you're looking for more damage, you're going to want to use First Avenger. Fist of Justice is a single target stun, and what this ability does is it is a passive. The Judgment reduces the remaining cooldown on Hammer of Justice by 10 seconds. In a that in a dungeon or whatever, that might be beneficial, but you're only reducing the cooldown every time you use Judgment by 10 seconds. So yeah, you're gonna have it up more often, but I think Blinding Light is a little bit better. Emits a dazzling light in all directions, blinding enemies within 10 yards, dealing holy damage and causing them to wander disoriented for 6 seconds. Non-holy damage will break the disorient effect. So if you have a big group, you can tell your guys, I'm popping Blinding Light, maybe let your healer catch up on a little bit of healing or whatever. It's just an AoE disorient, so I chose that. Then we have Blessing of Spellboarding. It replaces Blessing of Protection, and instead of you put it on a party or raid member, protecting them from all magical damage for 10 seconds. Whereas Blessing of Protection, it protects them from all physical damage. So this, you just choose magical over physical. This is situational. You might want to take other abilities based on the situation. Is the encounter you're doing mostly physical damage, or is the encounter you're doing more magic damage than anything? That's going to be something you have to decide. Blessing of Salvation places a blessing on a party or raid member, temporarily removing all threat from the target and causing all additional threat generated to be transferred to you last 10 seconds. Again, another situational talent you may want to choose. So this is basically the Hunter's Misdirect, but you get to choose who you're putting it on, and for whatever reason. Again, it's going to be situational. Then we have Hand of the Protector, calls down the light. It replaces Light of the Protector, calls down the light to heal a friendly target for 27% of the target's missing health, and it just reduces the cooldown a little bit on that, and it replaces Light of the Protector. Knight Templar, passive ability, reduces the cooldown of Divine Steed by 50% and reduces all damage taken while mounted on your Divine Steed by 20%. If you're going to be taking a big hit, in the next 3 seconds, you can pop this ability if you have none of your other damage reductions up, and it'll reduce damage by 20% while that's active. Also reduces the cooldown by 50%, so 50% more of the time you can have not 50% more of the time for the cooldown with this ability is only 22 seconds, so you're going to get to have that high mobility talent a lot more. Final Stand, use your Divine Shield. You also taunt all targets within 15 yards for 8 seconds. So that's basically like what we talked about with your taunt and Divine Shield, only it's kind of like makes life a little bit easier. So you can take that talent, or you can cheese it the way we talked about using a macro. Aegis of Light, Judgment of Light, Consecrated Ground. Here I use the passive ability Judgment of Light. Judgment now applies Judgment of Light to the target, causing the next 40 successful attacks against the target to heal the attacker for 1276 amount. This effect can only occur once per 1 second on each target. So this is you're going to be using Judgment anyway. It's easy to use. The next 40 attacks that are used, and that's you or your party or raid members attacking the target, it's going to give some healing. Another thing worth mentioning is Consecrated Ground, and for me, I'm planning on doing a lot of Mythic Plus, and then in Myth Plus, once you get to a certain difficulty, you have a debuff throughout the whole encounter where your whole group is taking constant damage over time. And the reason I think this might be something I'll consider using, I'm going to definitely try it out anyway. Consecrated Ground is a passive ability. Up to 6 allies standing within your consecration receive a very small amount of healing every 0.9 seconds. The enemies within your consecration have 50% reduced movement speed. So, again, if you have to be spread out or whatever, you can't all be huddled together. This isn't an ability you're going to want to take, but if you can, manage to get everybody in that consecration range, it's going to give a little bit of extra healing over time. It's passive, so that's kind of nice. Then we have Divine Protector, Seraphim, and Last Defender. Last Defender is a passive ability. Each enemy within 8 yards reduces the damage that you take and increases the damage that you deal by 3%. This effect has diminishing returns. So basically, the more targets you have, the more damage you deal, the more damage you take that is reduced. So, that's just another passive ability, easy to use, is, really good. Seraphim is pretty cool. The light temporarily magnifies your power, increasing your haste, critical strike, mastery, and versatility by 750, but it consumes up to 2 charges of Shield of the Righteous and lasts 8 seconds per charge. So basically, if you're not going to be tanking, or for a while, you know, or you're off tanking, you're not really worried about the amount of damage that you're going to be taking. You're not too concerned with using 2 charges from your Shield of the Righteous, which is going to be your damage reduction, you know, mitigation. You can use Seraphim to give you a huge, you know, damage buff. So just something you want to, you know, think about. Then Righteous Protector is a passive. Shield of the Righteous reduces the remaining cooldown on Light of the Protector and Avenging Wrath by 3 seconds. So, you know, I'm gonna be using Last Defender right now until things get a little bit easier. You know, for like a 5-man, let's say, then I'll go to Seraphim just for the extra damage or what have you. So with that said, that's the talents. That's a build I use. Now let's talk about the single target rotation. You know, and just keep in mind everything's on a cooldown. You're going to want to be using Blessed Hammer pretty much every other ability you use. And then another thing to remember is Shield of the Righteous and Light of the Protector are not on the global cooldown, so you can fit them in whenever you want to. So basically you're going to want to go in, you're going to want to use your Judgment, you're going to want to use Blessed Hammer, use Avenger's Shield, Blessed Hammer, Consecration, Shield of the Righteous, and then just repeat that rotation whenever things come off cooldown. So you want to make sure that you have Shield of the Righteous, it falls off before you use your next one. Judgment on cooldown, Blessed Hammer every other, and then Avenger's Shield, you know, is just going to be, you know, does some pretty good damage, and it helps pulling, you know, trash packs or whatever. Use your Light of the Protector whenever, you know, you're taking damage, whenever it's up. There's no harm in doing it. It doesn't cost anything. There's no holy power we're worried about in the protection pally. So, you know, use that for just a self-heal whenever it's up. Shield of the Righteous whenever you're, you know, the 4.5 seconds falls off, and then Blessed Hammer every other time. And remember to keep Consecration up because it gives you that 20% buff to the ability Shield of the Righteous and Light of the Protector. And you can have it up all the time. So that's your single target rotation. It's not hard at all. It's very straightforward. And then your AoE target rotation, you're just going to be making sure you have Consecrate up like you would in single target. You're going to be prioritizing Avenger's Shield over Judgment, and that's pretty much your oh, and then, you know, again, your Blessed Hammer every other. So that's your AoE rotation. So that's the Prot Pally in a nutshell, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like. Please feel free to leave a comment and subscribe. Thank you for watching.